Good evening. Welcome to Old Moves Radio. You are with myself, Ulani Baloi. The show is Prudent Woman. We are with you, as always, every Sunday, 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock. You are welcome this evening, and we are looking forward to learning together to become prudent women, to become futuristic women, women who are not taken by situations, but they prepare in time to be able to respond properly to the challenges that may face them in the future. Tonight, it's a wonderful night. And before we talk about tonight's topic, I would like to appreciate you for having watched us, having followed us. Last week, we had a wonderful competition. Our lovely image consultant and our hairdresser were giving away wonderful vouchers. And tonight, I would like to announce our winners. The winner for Maposhi Lifestyle Image Consultant voucher, it's Miss Shadung Dokas. She won an image consulting voucher, a free consultation with Maposhi Lifestyles. And then our winner for the hair treatment is Miss Kadin Dobe. She won a free natural hair treatment voucher with Doris Nuku Hair Salons. And the last winner was the winner for the week. That is with Maka Alamuhale. She won a week with Doris Nuku, a week to her choice. She will go in, get a consultation. So congratulations to our winners. I would like to believe all of us were looking forward to getting more. But what is more important is the information that we're getting, because the word of God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Not because the enemy is behind, is after us, but it's mainly because we do not have knowledge. So I would like to appreciate you for following us, for continuously listening to our show, because I believe you are empowered through our shows. As much as I am empowered, I learn every day when I come to the show. So I would like to welcome you, those who are watching us on Facebook and those who are watching us on the YouTube channels. You are welcome to converse with us through the comment section. Those who are listening to us through Bold Moves Radio, please, you can send us a WhatsApp for anything that you would like to ask during the show, to ask our guests on our WhatsApp number, 081-358-8745. I repeat, the number is 081-358-8745. You're welcome to converse with us. Tonight, we have a wonderful show, wonderful lineup. I promise you, ladies, I promise you, men, that you are going to be learning so much tonight. We have a wonderful session lined up for you. In South Africa and globally, we are celebrating Child Protection Week. It is ending today, but it is my belief that as a nation and as people in the globe, we do not just celebrate this, we commemorate it now only, but it's something that we should be cautious of. One clinical psychologist said, before we are even aware of our voice, there is a voice that we associate with, that of the primary caregiver or the parent. So imagine if that voice, it's always angry. Imagine if that voice, it's always loud, degrading, unnaturing, negative, and invalidating. By the time one starts to recognize their voice, they will be full of such negative voice as a frame of their mindset. That said, to me, what is more important is what we expose our children to. That said, to me, a child is much more precious and much more important than anything, because the word of God says those are the letters that we are writing to the future. That's why we saw it as the Prudent Women team, that we should bring a show that will commemorate Child Protection Week, but that will bring more enlightenment to all of us to understand what does it mean when we talk about child protection. We're all parents, and unfortunately, there's no school for parenting. We are all part of a society, but there's no school where we are taken and they say, come, we want to teach you how to handle your children. So tonight we are going to be learning a lot, Prudent Women, and we have a wonderful lineup. I'm with me here on the studio, my two guests, Sesima Sanamanganyi and Sesi Eugenia Baloyi. They are, by profession, they are social workers, responsible for different fields. But I promise you, these two ladies will do wonders. I have sat down with them. I could not believe even myself that little information that I thought I know much about parenting. Me having 3 children, one who is about to become an adult, I thought I knew, but I knew very little. So I promise you, if you stay with us, you will learn, and not only for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole society. And we also have a wonderful guest that will join us through the cell phone, our wonderful MEC of Social Development. She will also be saying something around child protection, because this is one of the areas that she's mandated with. And it's wonderful to hear some of our leaders taking serious their duties to want to empower people. You know, gone are the days where we should be reacting, but we should look forward to empower ourselves with information so that when the situation comes, all we do is take out that file and know how to respond appropriately. I would like to introduce you, ladies. It's wonderful to have you in the studio. Sesi, Eugenia, can you greet our audience?
Thank you, Program Director or the host of this show. And I would like to appreciate you for having us this night, and to our wonderful viewers and listeners, thank you for being with us. Thank you for having us. We promise that today is going to be a great and a wonderful show. Thank you.
Sesi Eugenia is not first in this show. She's our resident social worker. So most of the shows that we bring on board as Prudent Woman, she's involved in advising on different angles, because Prudent Woman is out there to empower us on different facets of life. That's why when you listen to the show, we come to you and we talk different things. Last week, we spoke about your self-image. We spoke about dress codes. We spoke about hairdressing. And I would like to believe, ladies, I believe by now you have tried to clear out those closets. Yeah. There are a lot of things that we do not want to keep in our wardrobes, but because sometimes you do not know how you are expected to dress up. You know, with me, I went back and I've tried. I've started with the tops. I've taken some out. I've said, no. This one, I did not know how I'm supposed to put it on. And remember the issue of the jackets, that you are not supposed to be, what did she say? Maposhi lifestyle, she said, whoop, whoop, something like that. So I believe by now we know we can differentiate between a jacket and a coat. And I would like to thank Sesi, Dorcas, I forgot the same name. She came through immediately after our show. She brought loads and loads of clothes that she could take out and said, I believe someone is looking for something that I'm just keeping in my wardrobe and I'm not using. We so much appreciate that. And I would like to encourage all of you ladies, please, whenever you have something, and even those who are outside Bulukwan, you can contact us. We can see how to get all these things, because we also have ladies who have got a ministry to empower and reach out, who go out and give out all these things that we have that we're keeping and we're not using in our households, to reach out to someone who can make use of it. That is Abigail Arise Women Empowerment. So ladies, I invite you, please, let us give those things. The show is coming here so that it can also release us, so that it can also enlighten us to see that we can be a blessing to someone. Again, I'm with me, Sesima Sanamanganyi. Sesima Sana, would you like to greet the audience this evening?
Thank you for the time, for the opportunity given. I greet you, wonderful listeners. Greetings to you. Thank you for the time. It's an honor to be here today. And I hope that we are going to learn, the listeners are going to learn. Thank you for the time given to me.
Thank you so much to my wonderful guests that I have on the on the studio this evening. And I do not want to forget my executive producer, Pastor Strike, and our co-producer, Nyeledi Baloy. And it's wonderful tonight for the first time, we have our co-producer right here on the studio. Thank you so much. We know the show will not be what it is without your help. Yes, I've said today we are talking about child protection. I do not know what you know. I do not know how much you know about child protection, but what I can promise you, what these two ladies shall take us through, when we finish the show, you will realize that you have been empowered. Some of us, you will realize that you have been facing that issue and you did not know how to appropriately respond to it, because with children, how you respond is much more important than, how the issue came to you. So it's very important. We must be enlightened to know how we should respond. I would like to invite our guests to tell us their understanding when, sorry, before our guests can come through, I'm told our MEC has to be released to do other things. We have her on the cell phone. May we get a word from the MEC?
Today, the 5th of June, marks the last day of the commemoration of Child Protection Week, which started on the 29th of May. The message that we want to send out on behalf of the Department of Social Development is that we really want to appreciate the programs that the department came up with and appreciate the people that were involved in participating, as we were reminding them about their responsibility in terms of making sure that we continue to take care of children. We start to see, I think, more incidents of children being lost, children being killed, children being abused. I think you'll remember the incident where the police found a bag that was full of the body parts of a baby. Those are some of the things that remind us as a department that we need to keep on sending a message out there that each and every parent, the families, the caregivers have got a responsibility to make sure that they know where children are at all times. We may not say as a department is only our responsibility. We want to, as long as a child is not yet reached the age of 18, it's still a child and it's still supposed to be under either the care or the family. The department will get a number of programs where from the programs as a department that are assisting in making sure that the children's lives are protected. The department, we are saying, it's pretty much the last day, yes, but we are saying this must attend 24 hours, 365 days, because children are supposed to be taken care of. We are where we are today because our parents took care of us, and we think it's important that we also do the same. So I want to take this opportunity and say to our people, let's make sure that the protection of children is not only observed within a week, but the whole year, every day and every day. One critical message is that every parent must make sure when the kids are playing outside, every 10 minutes you need to move and be 10 minutes is enough for the child to disappear and disappear. So we thank you so much for having participated in our program, but we say let us proceed and continue to make sure that children are protected at all times.
What role can the civil society play at MEC, your churches, community organizations, and the like?
We grew up knowing that a church is a place where people are taken care of. When we've got problems, we go to a church. So it's important that we reiterate a message to the churches as part of our civil society and community-based organization to say it's important to assist us to fight the scourge of the killing of children, but also they need to help us. Anybody has got a role and a responsibility to remind us when they need to be worried, either inform the social workers or the police that we see a child here, we don't know where he or she is coming from or going. Therefore, we're worried about the safety of the child, so that it shows that it's a societal matter that kids and children are taken care of.
This is Bold Moves Radio. Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Africa.
Boldly breaking barriers and limitations.
Welcome back. The show is Prudent Woman. You are listening to Bold Moves Radio. The topic for tonight is Child Protection Week. We are commemorating Child Protection Week and would like to thank our MEC for Social Development, Menka Kareng, for the wonderful words of encouragement as she encourages us that we need to partner with government if we are to win this war. There is a war that has been waged for us. For us, it's about empowering ourselves to know how to fight this war that is before us. Without being empowered, we may not win. And without us winning, we will not have a future because our children are the future. Yes, tonight, as I said, I have with me Sis Masana and Sis Eugenia. Please, Sis Eugenia, just tell us, why do we have to commemorate Child Protection Week? What is the significance?
Okay, we need to commemorate this Child Protection Week because this serves as a reminder to every parent, every caregiver, everyone who's looking after the child that the child has the right to protection. The child has the right to basic needs. So we need to remind each other to say, let us continue doing the great job of protecting our children. Let us continue to do the great job of looking after the children. We know and understand that there's no break in parenthood. There is no leave in parenthood, but on our daily basis, we are faced with parenting our children and making sure that everything that the children needs is taken care of, and also protecting them against any sort of violence. Remember, children are just children. Everything that happens to them is because of the vulnerability that they find themselves in. We cannot say it happened to them because they did this and that, because children, they don't know what is right, what is wrong. But as a parent, you are there to guide, to help them, to instill the values into that life of that child. So because of such vulnerabilities, our children end up becoming victims of any sort of abuse in families, in schools, in streets, anywhere a child can find herself in. We cannot say some of the environment, we exclude them from any sort of violence. Anywhere a child is found, can be a vulnerable environment for that child. Only if we can engage and listen and try to find out what happened, then we can be able to tell that this child has been violated or something. But if we leave things as normal as they are, it means it's business as usual. Children will continue to be violated. They will continue to be in a state wherein they don't have anyone to protect them. But we commemorate this week to ensure that people, caregivers, parents, anyone, we make sure that we are on the lookout of whatever that is happening around children, understanding the fact that even though the scenario is changing day by day, because our children have different values. Our children grew up in different environments. Some, they are good in answering. They will answer you to an extent wherein you regret yourself why you attempted to assist. But let us continue with that principle to say, you would have tried at least. So we are going back to protecting our children against any vulnerabilities.
So it is back to basics, and something that is very, very important, it is my belief that you can only do something when you are aware of it. At times, we believe there is no need to protect the child. If I have my child, I feel it is okay, I have my child. I do not see a need to protect them. Sometimes if my child comes to me and say, I feel lonely, I feel like you're neglecting me, I may, rise and say, no, what do you mean I'm neglecting you because I'm here? So, Sis Masana, your experience as a social worker, what will you say we need to protect children from? What are the issues that children need to be protected from?
Okay, thank you for the time once more. Sure, our children need to be protected from many things. As we are celebrating Child Protection Week, she has indicated that this week is to make an awareness on the issues where children needs to be protected. They need to be protected from abuse. There are different types of abuse. We need to protect our beautiful, lovely children from physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. We also need to protect our children from violence. Any violence at home that is happening, we have to protect our children from that. We have to protect our children from neglecting our children, no supervision. You just leave your children on their own. We need to protect our children from there. And we also need to protect our children from exploitation. But the most important one, it's abuse. We have to protect our children from abuse in different ways.
Yes, you know, it's so worrying when you read the statistics about what children have to face. What children on a day-to-day basis, you know, such wonderful gifts, who have got no power. They do not even know who they are. They trust upon us as their parents, as their caregivers. And because we do not understand these things, we do not understand the impact. Or sometimes it's all about failing to respond accordingly, because at times it's not that I'm not attending to the issue that has been brought before me, but it is because I'm responding inappropriately. So tonight, that is our purpose. We wish at the end of this show, we can all live and say, now I understand what is my responsibility. First, as a parent or caregiver, and as a member of society. How do I play a role? Because without us empowering or taking care of our children, there is no South Africa. We are done. We should know that is the end. And if today any one of us is able to say, who is to be blamed is the parents who were raising those children. Remember the quote that I read for you from one of the clinical psychologists who said, a child, when they are young, they cannot even identify their own voice, because in the beginning, the child cannot speak, but the child hears you as a parent. Every time when you speak, the child listens to your actions, what you do to other people. So the child starts to learn, you know, you are framing their state of mind by such things. And, you know, we read in the newspapers about a lot of things that are happening. Says, Eugenia, can you, take us through your experience as a social worker when we talk about protection of children? What has been your experience with us as parents or even in the society?
In my experience, I have learned that children are not abused or neglected by strangers. The loved ones, their sisters, their brothers, their mothers, people who claim to love them are the very same people who abuse these children. So as we experience these things in my office, you may find that a mother is unable to protect her child in this way. Let me give you a scenario. A case of a rape has happened. A daughter has been raped by the mother's partner. This partner is not the biological father of this daughter. But then when the case is reported, a mother is found to be protecting the partner instead of the child before the court. That was the last straw of the case, because as a mother, as a social worker, as a public servant, you look at the situation and think the mother is going to protect the child, but the mother is putting more harm onto the child, because the child now, the case cannot hold water without that evidence, without someone who can come before court to say, yes, this man did this and that. At the end of the day, the child has to go back to the house with the same mother, probably with the stepfather staying with them. Imagine the trauma that the child will go through, because if the case didn't go through, possibilities are the child might not receive even help in terms of psychological help to deal with the trauma that has happened. So with that experience, you can understand that a lot of things that are happening to children are because of the people they claim to love. You're looking at the cases of incest. We're talking about sexual relation or a sexual intercourse that has happened between relatives, where you find a family member assaulting or sexually abusing the child within the family. Gone are those days where we would say, or we're looking at the person who did this and this person is a breadwinner. And then we're looking at how we are going to benefit as a family and the losses that will happen if the case is reported. We're sacrificing the future of that child. Maybe the child is our future leader. The child would grow up to be a better person. But because of such experience, without support, without help, the child end up in drugs. A child end up seeking for help from wrong people. At the end of the day, that child might not recover from such an incident. So that is the experience of cases that we come across. And as a society, if we don't come to play, to assist, to say, I have seen this, I can testify, this is what I've experienced. It is hard, it is difficult to help a child. And a child, like Cecil Roland have indicated, is the letter that we are sending to the future. So imagine children who are growing under such abuse, under such neglect, under such circumstances. What kind of letters are we sending to the future? What kind of children are we sending to the future? Traumatized children, children who are depressed, children who don't believe in themselves, children who don't even know who they are as themselves, because their family, the environment they live in, the society they live in is not a safe place for them. So let us work together in attempting to resolve these matters.
What I'm getting from you, or Sis Masana, you want to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add on what she was saying. In most cases, I have realized that family members, they don't report. Most, not all family members, but most family members, they don't report if there is a case of abuse. So today it's an opportunity to raise this awareness that people out there, we should protect our children. As a family member, if you know that the child is being abused sexually or physically, it is your responsibility to report. So based on my experience, I've realized that most people, most family members, more especially from villages, report So from today, good people, if a child is being abused in different forms, we have to report the case. And to add on that, if you know a child, or you comes to a conclusion that the child is being abused or neglected, and if you don't report that case, from today you should know that you are guilty also.
Yes, because you become an accomplice to a crime. I would like to believe. What I'm getting from you ladies is that abuse happens, and us as caregivers, as parents, because we do not take time to learn and know our children. At times, I believe when you refusing, it's because you genuinely believe it's not true, but it's only because you do not know your child. How many of us, for instance, I have got a 6-year-old. One thing that I told myself was, even when I have a helper, a day never passes without me washing my own child. Because in that way, I'm building a relationship with my child. And I also am having a time where I'm able to observe my child. Because sometimes these things happen and take long, and the perpetrator in the process gets to be comfortable, because the perpetrator will be threatening this child until this child believes that this lies, that this and this will happen to you. By the time you think you have discovered it, it's too late. And I would like to invite you, prudent women, let us be responsible for our children. Take time to know your child. Have a special time which you allocate to your child, in any given day. There is no way we can be busy. I do not believe I can be busy and neglect my children, because at times we say we are busy because we're waiting for them. What is the use of waiting for a child who's abused, as Eugenia said, who is traumatized? A child who lacks self-esteem because they're destroyed every day. Someone is doing something to them. At the end of the day, when you want to take this child, hoping that this child can become what God has ordained them to be, they have already been destroyed. So ladies, I would like us also to look at the other facets of abuse or protection. I know most people, we know about about abuse, but there are other elements which we are supposed to protect our children from, which most of us, we are not aware. Before the show, you were talking to me about neglect. I wish you can bring it out to our listeners so that they can also understand that you have to make sure that you protect your child from neglect. Any one of you can take that. How do we protect our children from neglect?
Okay, let's start with the definition maybe of child neglect. When we talk about child neglect, is when you leave your child without someone to look after. Let me give a scenario. If a mother maybe leaves for somewhere else without making sure that the child is under the care of an older person or someone they spoke to, you just leave the house, maybe go to town, and the child was maybe playing with other friends. You didn't let anyone know that where you are going, when are you coming back, and everything. That we call child neglect, because you have neglected that child. You didn't know where the child is. You don't know whether the child have eaten. You don't know if the child has bathed or whoever. You just assume that because kokwan bakona kaya man bakona batang hlahisa. And at the end of the day, something happens and you are not there as a mother. How are you going to respond to such a case if something happens and they ask you, "Ngwana ukwin arna man," you can't even respond to that. One other thing will be, we have parents who are maybe working from far or staying far from home in Joburg or in Polokwane, wherever you are, and you left your child at home, and then you live with the SASSA card. I'm just giving an example. You are a recipient of the child support grant, and then you live with the card, and you leave the child with your parents at home. And then how do you expect them to take care of that child, whereas you have the means wherever you are? So financially, you are abusing that child, and you are abusing the people who are living with the child, because you already, wherever you are, you have the means to support that child. So when we talk about neglect, it's something maybe that you can do unknowingly and unconsciously, because it's something that is normalized. It's normalized because, okay, if people are at home, I can just go and leave the child. If food is there at home, I mean, I don't have to buy maybe extras for the child. So neglecting a child, it's a lot of forms. So even when we have to declare this child as a child in need of care and protection, we also look at those kind of things to say, you don't take care of your child, you are misusing the grant of the child does not have school uniform, because most of the cases are reported by teachers. And thank God, because we have teachers who cares, so they are able to identify such incidences. And
I would like to believe it's because teachers spend time with the children.
Yes, most of the
so
time.
It's very important to spend time with your child.
Yes.
It must be a crime for a parent to have a full day, and you have not seen your child.
Yes. So at that point, as we're working together with other departments, it gets easy to identify neglect. You can be able to see that this child, the mother, it's either she's not at home or the mother is involved in something, because we have cases where a mother drinks a lot. A mother drinks a lot. She comes home late. She drinks before the children, and the children end up trying to finish up. So there's a lot of incidences where you can tell if the child is neglected or not. So only if you can probe, only if you can check, then you can say this child is in need of care and protection. So I won't talk much about the steps that goes on with, but we can still identify the child as in need of care and protection when we see the child.
You know, it's such a sad situation when you see a child who's neglected. For me, it's so sad, you know, there's nothing that can be compared to a person neglecting a young one, someone who do not have power to protect themselves. Because these children are powerless. Exactly. They trust in us. And one other thing that I believe happens is that, you know, when as a parent, I do things which are not good before a child, to me, it's as good as neglecting. Because what am I modeling before this child? What am I showing them? Because when they say you are a caregiver, when they say you are a parent, to me, they say you are expected to be a good role model for this young one so that they can be better adults in the future. I see on the Facebook page, thank you to our listeners and our viewers. Dr. Mabila Matebula says, children are dying young. Parents are also a neglected group. Preventative psychiatry could be a solution to the problem. I would like to believe he's addressing what I'm saying when I say, you are expected to be a good role model.
Yes.
But the problem is, even myself as a parent, you find that I have been damaged back where I come from. So it is about time. Prudent women, I know it may have happened to you, but you can change the situation. It is you who has got the power and authority to change the situation. You cannot maintain the status quo. You cannot say, because when I was growing up, my parents will just go and leave me. And I will just, when it's dark, I'll go to the next door neighbors and sleep there. Things have changed, A lot has changed. Our society is not what it used to be. And even ourselves, even when they were leaving us like that, sometimes it will not be simple because you are left with the neighbors. Sometimes you find that you have been playing with the children of the neighbors and you have fought when you were playing. Now you have to submit yourself to going and beg someone, So we can see it's not fair. Says Masana, Can you talk to us? I know the other element of neglect or protecting our children goes with emotional abuse. Something that I know, even myself, I tend to be guilty of. When I'm angry, I become loud. You say things which are not good. What is the danger of not of emotional abuse to our children?
Okay, the danger of emotional abuse to our children. Parents, we should be very careful of what we say before our children. It has a very big impact. The words that we utter, that we speak, that we say in front of our children. I would like to give an example where parents, I sometimes do that, but I will come back to my senses. We must stop comparing children. Children are not the same. Most parents will say, "Ngwana wa ka man mane, ngwana wa ka man mane." That's an emotional. It's an emotional abuse. You cannot compare your child to someone's child. Rather, you have to establish that parent-child relationship. If you say that there is something wrong with your child, sometimes we have to sit on the table. You talk to your child. We must stop comparing them. Ngwana wa ka man mane is better than when you don't know what it's doing inside the person, and the child may be depressed while you are not aware because of our words. So we should be very careful of what we say. I cannot. Some parents, they will even swear at their child, but the most important one that I want to emphasize is that the one of comparing. We must stop comparing our child to other children. It affects our children. When they are alone in their corner, they cry alone. It have a very negative impact. So.
And we become surprised when finally we hear our own child, some of them resorting to substance abuse.
Exactly.
And not understand, wow, how did it come? And you are even saying, I buy everything for you. The fridge is full of food. Why did you do this? Some of them pass very well and go to university. When they get there, they do not perform. And only to find that you have been comparing. Children are very attentive. They listen to what we say and they go out there and want to please us, That's the other element that I know of children. They strive to please us. And in pleasing us, they hate themselves. So it's very important. Let us get to know our children in order to be able to protect them, because our children are a gift from God and they are unique as they are, And for some reason, parents, caregivers, we tend to, this one I know, we are guilty. We tend to overlook it. You say whatever, you talk, you shout, you do not realize what impact it's making. And do we take time? Ceci Eugenia, just tell us, how important is it for us to have a child-parent relationship, and how are we supposed to talk to them? Because listening to you, when we talk about the prevalent issues that are happening in terms of us neglecting our children, abusing our children, what is core, I think, is the relationship. Because when you have a relationship, even when you rebuke, you will be able to rebuke with love, and the other recipient will be able to receive it with love.
Yeah, it is very important to have a good relationship with your children, because when you have a good relationship, their self-confidence, it gets to be elevated. They learn to love themselves. They are able to share whatever that has happened. They're able to come back and share how their day was in school. And as parents, it will be important, if you have a good relationship, to have the third ear to even hear what was not said through that conversation. So when you're having a good relationship as a parent, I don't think you will miss anything that is happening in your life as child. So you will go through with them in all the stages of development. Remember, they are growing every time. Their brain maturation is growing. And also, even if they didn't say anything, if you have a good relationship, most of the children, they show their concerns through behavior change. So once the behavior changes, you are able to see, man, this is a cry out for help. Maybe something is wrong with this child, and you are able to intervene. But imagine if you don't care. Imagine if you're not concerned about the well-being of this child. When the child changes the behavior, people will be complaining about the child to say, these days he's fighting a lot. These days is aggressive. These days is the marks are going down. But if you are having such a good relationship, you are the first person to identify those changes, and you are able to attend to them as early as possible. So a good relationship between mother and son, mother and daughter, father and son, father and daughter, it is a very good foundation for the letter that we're sending forward to say, I'm sending a good letter. I'm writing a good letter. So you can even predict the kind of a child you are having or you will have in the future. To say some will end up saying, "When you won't be a good husband to your wife," because we are already seeing what is happening. But as much as we are saying it jokingly, we are not doing much to correct such a behavior if we don't have a good relationship. So if we have a good relationship, it will be easy for us to ensure that such a behavior is corrected, such a behavior is attended to from an early stage. So as parents, let us revisit ourselves. Let us look at ourselves. Let's do self-introspection. I understand it's not easy for a child to foster a relationship with the mother, because with the level of respect that they have for us, it's not easy to come and say, "Mama, now I'm dating." You see? And if you have a good relationship, the child will be able to say, "There's a guy who says he likes me. What does that mean?"
But and that as well, says Eugenia, what I believe is that when we say "Ngwana aiwa," it's also a responsibility to the parent to be able to identify good people in society and introduce your child to those people, so that your child is able to approach someone on things that they cannot approach.
Yes. Yeah. So like you are indicating that as a mother, you are not a jack of all trades. Yes. So if you have that good relationship, you are able to refer and get feedback. Yes. It's either from your child or from the person you send them to. So let us be able to acknowledge that relationship can give us good results in the future, and we're able to attend to any other cry out of help that will come out of that.
You know, one of the young people here writes a joke and say, some of the young people even tell their parents that you are not a millionaire, so you cannot be my role model. So even us as parents, we fail. And sometimes we do not want our children to tell us that we are failing. We always want to be correct in everything, which is very wrong. We would like to take an ad break. We'll be right back with you.
This is streaming 24/7. 24/7. Yeah.
until 7 o'clock. I'm with you. Myself is Rulani Baloyi. I am the host. Together with me this evening, I have our social workers, Ceci Eugenia and Ceci Masana. You are welcome back. The topic for today, we are commemorating Child Protection Week. We see the importance of protecting our children so that we can raise the future generation, which we can be proud of. We say we need to see a bright future. We need to send forth good letters so that they can represent our nation. I see one of our listeners saying, one of the areas that we need to protect our children is parents bullying their children. Because at times we have parents who bully their children. What would you like to say about parents bullying their children?
Okay. What I can say is that as parents, we think we have that authority to say or to do whatever we can do to our children without even realizing the harm that is causing. I don't believe a mother can wake up any day and say, and then they bully their child. So it goes also with the personality of that mother. Maybe they need to be reminded by the child or anyone close to them to say, but whatever that you're doing to your child is not good, because sometimes how we do it or what we do, we don't see it as a problem. There are parents who would do it without realizing that this is causing harm to the children. So like we indicated earlier before the break, to say, let us do self-introspection. Ask yourself, what kind of a parent am I? What kind of children do I have? Because children also, they differ in terms of personality. They may be your children, 3 of them, but they are their own people. We should individualize them, even as we care for them, to say, okay, this is Anzani. Anzani is this kind of a person, is an introvert, and this is what Anzani likes. Okay, this one is Blessing. Blessing is an extrovert. So even in parenting, how I talk to Anzani shouldn't be the same as how I'll talk to Blessing, because they are two different individuals.
They are unique in their own making.
Yes.
I see Pastor Jolene is saying, mothers, let's learn to forgive, not to take our anger and bitterness caused by their dads on our children. And I think that is very contributory to bullying your children, because sometimes you do it unconsciously. So, because you are angry with their dad or their family, you take it out on your children. So it's very important for us to know who we are, for us to be in the right frame of mind in order to build our children. And I see Cecile Tabi saying, she says, she saw someone saying, my daughter asked me this morning, do you have to shout like that every morning? And I can just imagine, probably this mother is because it's a single parent, or the father is not helping in getting them ready. So every morning you are angry, you run around the house, now you shout. Instead of doing good, it's actually negatively impacting your child. So, these things, it's so sad. Cecil I was saying again, says, why are Black parents disconnected from their children's life in terms of communication? From me, I believe it's our upbringing, as you were saying, Cecil Eugenia, how we were brought up. But what is important is for us to recognize that things have changed. I am one person who believes that we cannot talk about culture as if it's static. Culture evolves, if we're doing things this way 30 years ago, there was no social media. Exactly. 30 years ago, when I'm sitting at home, I could not hear about what has happened in Joburg. I will have to wait for the 8 o'clock news. But today, when something happens there and there, I get to know about it. Sometimes even before it happens, because the people who are planning it can start talking about it on social media. So it's very important that we also recognize as parents the impact of social media. What would you like to say about the impact of social media in terms of us being able to protect our children?
Okay, what I can say is Masana will add, there's nothing wrong with the way things are now, but there's something wrong with parents who are not willing to change their parenting styles. The reason there's a gap between a parent and a child is because parents still believe in the olden days of parenting. We have different ways of parenting styles. I understand today is a different show, but maybe we can have a session where we're talking about parenting styles. So in a case wherein a mother is very ignorant about social media, or they're ignorant about things that are happening today, how are you able to help your child that is going astray with things of today when you are not aware, you're not connected with what is happening now? It's not going to be possible for you to protect your child from whatever is happening on social media if you are not part of it, or you are not having interest in it, or to understand it basically, because now we are moving into paperless environment. So as a mother, if your child is exposed to something, maybe cyberbullying as a form of an abuse that they are going through, how are you going to understand it and protect such a child if you don't have information about it?
I would also like to believe we have a parent in the house whom we are not aware, or we refuse to acknowledge, who is Parent Google.
Yes.
Parent Google, it's there in the house 24 hours. And unfortunately, if we refuse to acknowledge that, says Eugenia, I believe that's what's leading us to be disconnected to our children, because our children have Parent Google parenting them, and then here I come, I say something, and Parent Google, unfortunately, is not emotional. So Parent Google can say anything that the child wants, that the child will believe is true. How do we protect our children from the effects of all this information that is before them?
Okay, I think the best way to protect our children, I'm repeating it again, is to have that parent-child relationship. We have to be open to our children. We have to be open to our children, because when we don't talk to them, when we don't tell them what they need to hear, they will go and Google there and they will get the right information. So the best way is to have that relationship with them. Let us sit down and we discuss. I think most parents, we don't have enough time because we fail to balance family and work. So if we can try to balance family and work, I know when we arrive at home, we are so tired. The weekend we want to rent. We don't have time. We don't have time to bond with but if the little time that we get, let us sit down and have that relationship with our children. When you come back from work, don't go straight to the bedroom and you leave them with, call them, let them come and sit with you where you are. Or you ask, how was their day? You talk to them. So I think the best way is to develop a good relationship, that parent-child relationship. That's the best way. If a child is being bullied, he or she will tell you there's no way. But if there is no relationship, the child will not open up.
You are not the friend to the child, yes. So the child becomes scared. I see someone here saying on our YouTube saying, one other way of protecting our children from social media, from all this information, the power of these gadgets. They are so powerful. You've got the whole world before you. So this viewer is saying it's important for us to give our children these gadgets because they need them in order to learn. The environment has changed, but there are programs that can help us to limit our children from accessing certain sites. So thank you so much. That is such a wonderful input. And maybe ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know these websites which can help you to protect your children, when you buy these gadgets, you can ask the salespeople. They will help you, because most of the stores where they sell these gadgets, you find that they've got an IT specialist. The IT specialist will be able to help you on how to limit your children from accessing the whole world, because there's danger out there and there are creatures who are waiting for them. So we need to also realize that we need to protect our children. I see Ceci Georgina Mabunda asking, if you see that a child is being neglected, what must you do?
Okay. Can I go?
Yes.
Okay. So if the child is being neglected, it's either you are a family member, you are a society member, or you are just a concerned person. You can report such incident to your nearby social worker, wherein you can even go there as an anonymous, as long as you have information, the house number where the child is, the name of the child and the parents. So what we do, maybe in brief, what we will do is to do an investigation, do a home visit to check the circumstances of the child, and then we check on the measures to assist the child. Remember, our responsibility is not only to remove the child from the care and the society at large. So firstly, we'll have to check which consistent or intervention is best for that case. But in brief, some intervention we can do is to check if we can remove the child or we can remove the perpetrator, depending on the seriousness of the offense, or we can work on the family whereas they are still together, depending on the seriousness. And if it comes to a push, let's give an example of a sexual abuse. Yes. In that case, we won't compromise. If it happened in the family and the person is in the family, we have to remove. It's either the person goes to prison or we remove the child to a place of safety where a children will be cared for, which is also our last resort. Because remember, if we remove the child, it means we are taking the child from the society with the values and their norms where they will be growing up together with their peers and understanding the norms to a place of safety wherein it's different cultures there with different parents where they have to start afresh and they regress in their growth because they have to acclimatize themselves with the environment. So we look at all those things. So moving them to a place of safety, it's a very last resort. Only when we find that in the society, there's no one who is willing to look after the child. But if we can find a person who is willing to foster that child, we can place through the court order at the care of somebody as a foster parent. And we also recommend a foster care grant for such a parent, because raising someone else's child it's not as easy as we can say, because financially you need to stretch yourself. So temporarily, we can place that child until the case is resolved. Maybe the person is convicted or an intervention that will be able to ease the situation has been taken care of. So let us not keep quiet. Let us go and report so that something can be done to assist such a child.
This is so wonderful, because what is saying to me is that our government cares. And unfortunately, at times, we do not know about these things. That's why we are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Did we know that when you take a child for foster caring, government also comes on board to assist us? You know, these are things that we do not know. And I believe you cannot say this is happening to this child. It's not my child. Mina, when I look at children, I ask myself, when I see a young man walking on the streets of Polokwane or streets of Giani, wherever it is, who is misbehaving, I tend to ask myself, if that young man is my child's age, I ask myself, it is my responsibility as an adult to make sure or try to model better lives before this young man. Sometimes, yes, you look at the situation, as we said, the society has changed, because some of them, you approach them and say, young man, you cannot do that. They have a gun, they shoot you. We have heard of incidences where something like that happened. But imagine where you can see that you could help. It's because this young man is lost, or this young girl is lost, does not understand. You had an opportunity. You could see that there's a window of opportunity for you to positively impact on this child, and you do nothing. Either this child at the end of the day gets married to your own child with those bad morals, or this child at the end of the day comes to steal in your house, because we are in a society and we do not live in an island. You cannot say, no, man, I'm caring about my child only. I do not care what's happening. So it is the responsibility of each and every parent. That is my conviction, to model a good life before these children. You know, during this week, when government was talking about on the commemoration of this Child Protection Week, they spoke more about child pregnancies, you know. Yes. And these things happen because we do not model right before our children, because most of these children who are pregnant, they are impregnated by elderly people. So can you just imagine what that does Sis Masana,
Yes.
you know, it's so painful. To me, it's so painful. I cannot even start to think about it, because I ask myself, when this elderly person who also have children goes and do this because of 1, 2, 3, and 4, what is in their minds, you know? And I know our government, because it cares, there are quite a number of legislations that are out there. What will you like to tell us? I know you are not legal people, but I know that as you discharge of your responsibilities, you've got legislation that mandates you, like the Children's Act and the Child Justice Act. What will you like to say to us as mothers, as women, that we can rely on to be able to help those whom we are seeing in the society as children being affected by this neglect and abuse?
Okay, the Constitution of South Africa, it also protects children. We have Children's Act. It protects children from any kind of abuse. Yes, those are the legislation that for now I can talk about. Though I cannot mention the section, yes, but the Constitution, it protects the rights of children,
yes,
from any kind of abuse. It does protect
our children.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yeah. I see Cecilia,
you want to add?
Please
Okay.
come in.
Yeah, what I want to add on is that when we are working with children, we use those acts to protect them. So when I have to remove a child, or when I have to declare a child in need of care and protection, I need to quote a certain act or a certain section to say, magistrate, this child is in need of care and protection because the child is an orphan. This child lost both parents. Therefore, because this is still a child, she needs a caregiver. Can we place this child under the care of so and so for a period of 2 years? Within that 2 years, we want to make sure that we have placed the child in the right with the right person, because we need to evaluate and check how is this person parenting this child, because our main aim is the well-being of the child. So within that 2 years, we are checking and monitoring if the child is well protected, is well taken care of, so that after 2 years, we review and see we still trust this person, or we need to look for a different person who we can place this child with. So that was an example with foster care. But in every case, whether it's neglect, it's abuse, we look at the act. What does it say about this child and this kind of an offense? Also, when we look at the Child Justice Act, the Child Justice Act is advocating for children. We understand that children, they are still young. They make mistakes. They can be caught in a certain kind of a crime, in maybe shoplifting. So we need to check what was this child thinking? Is it food? Is it contents? How much does it amount to? What was the reason? Because if I'm not wrong, under 9 or under 10 years, the child doesn't have a criminal capacity. So we need to check what was happening. Was this child used by an older person? Was this because of hunger? So we try by all means to use this legislation to protect them from having criminal, what do we call it? Criminal record. Yes. So we are protecting them using those legislation, because they are still children, they are still learning, they are still growing, so that as we correct the behavior, they can realize that this was my mistakes as a child, but now I'm a grown person, I can take responsibility and correct such a behavior. Yes.
No, I'm asking you these questions because I know some of us, we do not want to intervene, or even when it's happening in our families, we do not know how to approach it, because we do not know that the law is on our side. When you go to SAPS to report such a case, you can be able to tell them that this is what I'm expecting, because at times we go there not knowing what to expect, and then you are being sent away because someone knows your family. But when you know exactly what you should be expecting from a law enforcement officer, you are able to demand that I expect 1, 2, 3, and 4 to be done. Thank you to our listeners. While you are still listening to Prudent Woman on Bold Moves Radio, our apologies, we took 15 minutes of your time because we started late due to technical issues. We trust that you have forgiven us for that. But the show every Sunday takes place 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. And we're closing on your comments. Unfortunately, we're only left with 2 minutes. I would like to hand over to my guests to say their parting shots.
Okay.
I trust that ladies, men, children, as we start the Youth Month, you have learned so much. Says Eugenia, I'll start with you, your parting shots.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, be careful of not being a victim or an accused for child abuse, because if you are found guilty of such an offense, your name will be registered in a Part B of Child Protection Register, wherein you won't be able or you won't be allowed in South Africa to work with children, whether it's been an educator or ECD practitioner or any kind of work that relates to children. So if you have that record, it's unfortunate that you will not be able to do that. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening to us. If you still have more questions to ask, you can comment on the Facebook and WhatsApp, and also our contacts they will be able to give you so that you can call us to inquire. We are here for you as your social workers to assist in case of any other cases that you may feel like you cannot share with us on social media and on air. Thank you.
Yeah. You can request their contact numbers via the WhatsApp number 081-358-8745. And you can also continue to interact with us on the Facebook page and the YouTube page. We will be with you. They will continue for a week or so, continue to monitor it and respond to your questions. Says Masana, any parting shots?
Okay. You know, our children are very precious. They are very unique on their own ways. So what I can say is that we have to take care of our children. We have to take care of our children. We have to protect them from any kind of abuse. And to add on what we were saying, maybe most people, they don't report because they don't know. Anyone has the right to report if they see that a child is being abused. Community members, you can report if you see that a child is being abused. Teachers, they do report. Physiotherapists, anyone, you have the right to report. So those are my last words, that do not sit with something. If you notice that the child is being abused, you report.
Thank you so much to our guests. I trust that you have learned so much, as well as our listeners. It was wonderful having you. This was our first show for the Youth Month. There's still a lot that we're going to be learning throughout the Youth Month. Our belief as Prudent Woman is that we should be empowered to make sure that we send better letters to the future. This Youth Month, we are here to learn on how to write the best letters. We're not going to check on the neighbors, what have they written on their letter, but we are going to write our own better letters with the gifts that God has given us. Thank you so much. Have a blessed evening.
Africa Ninakupenda on Bold Moves Radio.
I see the beauty of the nature. I hear the chant of the tribes. It's the spirit of culture. Only here I feel this magic vibes.
This is a journey to the roots. Welcome to Africa.
Africa, say Africa, say Africa, say Africa.